Okay, I told you I was going to show you what I'm doing with the after. This is your, I guess I'll call it an after bale cleanup. Um, we got all this mess of bales here, and you can see they're in some really good shape here. But what you've got is you've got a lot of the carbon still left on top. Get my fork in. Now that straw, what I try to do is take that straw off the top, and I'll use it for mulch or filler, and then underneath of it is the part that's already composted. Those bales were on top of this row right here. Originally had bales on top of it. Now I'm just going to come along and slide my shovel underneath there, and now I've got wonderful compost that I can mix in with my other potting soil. Right here in the trailer, I've got a bale of peat moss, so I'm putting that compost in with it. I'm throw in probably equal amounts of compost and peat moss, and then I've got some other stuff to throw into. I've got a pile of composted horse manure over here that I got from a friend of mine who raises racehorses, and I'm going to mix that in there, probably just like I say, equal parts of the three. And if you can't find anything else, you can just mix peat moss. This is a bottom composted manure. I just don't want to spend the money for bottom stuff. But this compost, every one of these rows of hay and straw has got a nice row of compost underneath of it. So I'm just going to go along and skim all that up out of there and mix that into potting soil. Now, what do you need so much potting soil, you might ask? Why do you need so much potting soil? Well, we're going to take a trip out and I'll show you what my plans are for this year. I'm still going to use bales, but I'm going to use them in a different way. This way I won't have any of this falling over and rotting down crooked and looking weird and having to clean it up next year. And hang on, I'm going to shut you off and we'll go for a ride over to the shop, and then I'll get back with you. Hey, here's my little pile of composted horse manure I told you about. This has been sitting here for a year, and I've stirred it a couple times, so it's composted down really nice. I'm pretty confident that if I had enough of this, I could just use this for all the potting soil I wanted and just grow stuff directly in it. But I'm trying to stretch it out a little farther. I can get all of it that I want, but it's not composted down yet. So anyway, there's my mixture. I haven't stirred it up yet, but that's peat moss and bale compost and horse manure. Now I'm going to go over and show you what I'm doing and why we need all this. Hang on. Okay, here's what this year's plan is. These, I have found a bunch of siding or roofing tin in an old junk pile here when I bought this place, and I've been hanging on to them for, I knew sometime somewhere they'd come in handy. And they were 8 foot long by I believe 27 inches wide or 30 inches wide, something like 32 inches wide maybe. Anyway, now it had to be 34 because this is 7. Anyway, they come out just right so that I can take 2 feet off the end and then split the whole thing. I'll show you how I do these after. I'll make another video to show them exactly how I do them. And the idea is that these boxes, they're just another raised box, but they're more than that. I got to thinking about it. I got all those bales last summer, they were falling over and I couldn't keep them up, and some of them were sinking so bad that when my tomatoes were on the trellis, they were actually pulling the roots up out of the bale because the bale was sinking away from it. And I said, man, there's got to be a way to do better than that. And so I thought, well, if I could just, first off, I tried propping the bales up so they wouldn't roll. Well, that didn't really work. It helped a little. You know what, if I just made a box for each bale or 2 bales or whatever, And the whole reason I did the bales in the first place, and the whole reason I do these boxes, honestly, is so I don't have to get down so far on the ground. I'm getting up in age and got a lot of arthritis, and I just can't do that anymore. So it's either this or quit gardening. So anyway, a bale of hay or straw is about 20 inches wide and about 12 inches high and about 40 inches long. Now when you make a bale garden, you set them up on edge this way so that the tall edge is sticking up, because they say that they believe that the water will soak into the straw better and it'll hold it better, etc., etc. I don't know if I buy into that or not, but then I got to thinking about it. That's about the right height. And so I decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a bale and lay it in here instead of this way. I'm going to lay it in flat ways. So it's going to be 20 inches wide, 12 inches tall, and still 40 inches long. Now what that's going to do, another problem I had was starting seed and starting plants. A lot of times some types of plants didn't like to start well in the hay bale, even though I put some potting soil on top. So what I'm going to do here is I've got a set, these are 17 inches tall, so the bottom 12 inches is going to be a hay bale. Now granted, there's going to be extra space in here because this is 24 inches wide and the hay bale is only 20, so I got 2 inches on each side there, and 40 inches for a bale is going to be about over to here. So we got some space left over. So I can put a bale and a half in here like that. If I want to, I can cram some in down along the sides. But the main thing is the top 6 inches or so I'm going to pack with this dirt that I'm making over here, this nice potting soil. And what we're going to have that way, is before I put the potting soil down, I'm going to condition the bales just like you would for a regular bale garden. Fertilizer, water, 10 days, let them get started decomposing, let them start mulching, the temperature will come up, and then when the temperature drops back down below 100, it's ready to plant. So at that point, I'm going to put my potting soil on top of them and around about them, pack that thing clear to the top, and then I can plant anything in there. I can plant seeds, I can put plants in, whatever. Everything's going to get a good start in the potting soil. It's going to take a lot less potting soil than if I tried to fill that whole big thing up. And last year, I know a lot of people talk about, well, you can, in permaculture, let's say that fill the bottom up with logs and sticks and twigs and stuff. And I tried that last year, and the problem I had was that I had too much drainage. I could not keep that wet enough to keep my plants happy. They stayed alive, but they weren't happy. And if you don't have happy plants, you don't have a happy harvest. So anyway, so that was my first consideration, was I want to fill that up with something, and then I thought, well, heck, I'll do bales. That way I've got the benefits of the bale garden because it holds all that nutrition. It's making new nutrition, and then I got the soil on top that I couldn't afford enough to fill the whole bin with, but I got it on top where it'll do the most good. Now the other thing about this is, next fall, when the garden's all over, don't have to do anything. There's no cleanup. You just leave it where it's at. That straw or hay will rot down farther. It'll sink down some. Your soil will compost more. Next spring, come in with more of the homemade soil, and just top it up again. Top it up with compost, and you're good to go again. Don't have the big cleanup that we looked at over there in the last video. And I'm really excited to get this going. And it is a little bit time consuming in the start when you're building everything, but it's going to save so much time down the road. The other thing is, this is what I mentioned also about the fabric versus cardboard. If I go over there and cover that whole thing with fabric, which is what I was planning to do, then I set these on there. My plan was to go in the bottom here and cut out most of that bottom, cut the fabric out of most of that bottom. The plant roots probably don't need to go that deep, but by cutting the bottom out, by having a bottom in there with that fabric, your worms, your microorganisms, your nutrients, all that stuff cannot get up into the root zone where the plants are. This way, I've got open, so I can set this right on top of the cardboard in the compost. But whereas you saw how the bugs ate up that cardboard over there, they'll eat right up into this, and every year it'll get better. You can actually keep building your soil inside this box the same way as you would on a flat garden. So I hope this is going to be my answer to a lot of the things I've had problems with, and I'm excited about trying it. I hope you'll try it too. So anyway, that's the story for today. I just every day is better in this great big beautiful world that God made for us. Oh, and speaking of that, it's going to take a lot of compost, as you know, to cover all the cardboard over there in the garden. Well, I may be more fortunate than some, but everybody can come up with some kind of compost, whether it's straw or more cardboard or whatever. But I happen to have 2 acres of this green gold here that grows so fast I can't keep them all mowed. And last summer I bought an old lawn sweeper to pull behind my garden tractor. Found one for $100, and I got all the compost I can think of to put on top of that. And it makes wonderful compost, wonderful mulch, and God's just truly blessed me. If you got a small yard, I have seen those. I've seen other sweepers in a smaller size that are made to be pushed around. So if you just got a little yard in town, even mow your grass, rake your leaves, don't throw any of that away. Rake it all up, get you a little walk behind the sweeper and sweep it up. Ask your neighbors if you can sweep their lawns after they've had it. It makes the best darn garden mulch you ever saw, and it makes wonderful garden compost. I'll give you a little hint right now. I'll probably do a video about this kind of stuff later on at some point. But one hint I've learned with using mown grass for compost is that anybody that talks about the technical parts of compost will tell you that you need a certain percentage of greens and a certain percentage of browns, nitrogen and carbon. When you pick up your mowed grass, especially if you leave it lay for like a day or two so it partially dries out, you've got both right there in a perfect mix. You pile that up and it'll start composting down immediately. All you got to do is go in. If you want to make it faster, you can go in and rake it or stir it up a little bit once in a while. But you can put that in just in a sheet, a covering over like a mulch, and it'll sit there and turn into compost just within a few weeks. So think about using your old grass. And with that, I'm going to let you go, and we'll just call this a day. God bless you. Hey, if you liked any of this, hit like, hit subscribe, make a comment, let me know what's going on. If you got any kind of, this has stirred any ideas for videos that you want to see, leave a note and I'll see if what I can do. Okay, God loves you. Bye-bye.